Hi, everybody. Today we're going to start the webinar, and it is the first part of January 2026. The topic of this webinar is Q1 reminder checklist for nurse practitioners and practice owners. And just before we start, we want to make sure everyone understands this is educational information only. The content reflects publicly available guidance and general business practices. Laws and requirements vary by state and practice. You need to consult legal and accounting professionals for your specific situation. But that said, we're going to get started and hopefully get you off on the right foot for 2026. Your business at a glance. For these topics that we're going to cover are people, practice, products, and paperwork. We're going to cover the topics of employees versus contractor, what you need to file with the IRS, your company and license renewals checklist. We want to make sure you have all of that in place. For inventory and equipment, that you have thought about how you are going to process any and all audits for inventory and make sure you've got all your equipment categories lined up for your accountant. And then basically the paperwork that follows with that. So you really want to make sure you have everything all bundled together and ready to give to your bookkeeper or accountant or handle it yourself. So for the practice owner, the people that you interact with, who did you pay? You have employees and contractor categories. W-2 employees, what's required or forms that you have to file. The W-2 is required by February 2nd, 2026, and that's what you need to give to your employees by that date. When you hire someone, you should get a W-4, which determines what their federal income tax withholding is. It's always a good idea to update that if someone had, got married or had a baby or additions or subtractions to their withholdings. It's always a good time to meet with employees and get that. And then also the I-9, that is something that is also required that a lot of people don't typically get necessarily on the front side, but that is documentation that is required. You get that online, and that confirms the identity and authorization for anyone to work in the United States. It's actually separate from the tax and payroll records, but something that you need to keep on hand. For 1099 contractors, these are people you have paid outside of payroll, and that follows a different documentation standard but also is required. The government requires that you file a 1099, and that actually is due on February 2nd as well. So the threshold typically for IRS reporting is anyone who you have paid over $600 in the calendar year. Before you file or actually give any funds to any contractor, you need to collect a W-9, which provides the tax ID number for reporting and the physical address of the individual / corporate entity that you have paid. Now, with respect to that, you need to check your checks, ACH, Venmo, Zelle, anything that has been something with respect to the payments that you sent out. Now, not necessarily reimbursement. For example, if you had an employee or family member go and get supplies for you and you reimburse them, that's different. This is something that a contractor provided for you services and you paid them. So just some good side notes and something to remember in a good business practice: no W-9, no payment ever. So it's easier to collect that W-9 sooner rather than later. So you need to capture that and get that before you give them any money. Otherwise, it's difficult to get that later. The W-4 form and the I-9 form, always a good idea when you hire someone, but in fact, you can always get that at any time. If you have employees, it's first of the year, good time to have a meeting with them anyway, gather it and put it in the file. So that's the first part. Now, for your practice, you have two tranches of renewals, and it's always a good idea the first part of the year to check your expiration date and any required continuing education credits. Just always a good health check on where are you, when does your license expire, what do you need to get done, and kind of put together a plan for that. DA registration is another one. You need to confirm the status and your expiration if applicable. And then the other things to consider are your collaboration agreements. If you have added services and that's something applicable to your practice, always need to check that. And then the vendor accounts, have the updated licenses ready to avoid any access or delays. So those are the things that you want to look at on the practice side. On the corporate and business filing side, you have to annually file a annual business entity renewal. And that is something that typically is filed with the Secretary of State. If you have federal tax return with S Corporation, you need to file that. You need to check if you have any registrations with your county or city, and then check your insurance policies to see what's active, any renewal dates, and if you need to add anything. If you purchase equipment, if you've sold equipment, you need to make sure you get all of that renewed and make sure that's on your calendar. And then just make sure that your registered agent information with the Secretary of State is in good standing and accurate. I want to mention that with the state business filings for renewals, you actually can do that yourself. Not necessarily, sometimes you get spam from people who are trying to get this done for you for $250. And you don't have to do that. You go on the Secretary of State and you can do it yourself very quickly. You don't want that to expire, because it is a pretty hefty fine. It's $400 in the state of Florida, for example. For products, and we have put equipment in there as part of the category with products. You have so always timely end of the year to do inventory inspection, look at your inventory accounts, perform a hard count, physically hand count all inventory. Be sure to open all the boxes. Arrange your stock using the first expired, first out method. So you make sure that anything is expiring first, is used first. And then also check if there are any expiration dates on your high value items, including the toxins, fillers, and emergency kits. You need to write those down. So if they've expired, inventory is an asset until it's used or discarded. So you need to figure your cost of goods sold, which is your starting inventory plus purchases, minus your inventory, which is your cost. So Sometimes if you end the year with high inventory, it makes you look like you had a higher paper profit, which means higher taxes. So you want to know, you definitely want to make sure that you're on top of that. Some people automatically expense all of their products. And so you want, when they purchase, so it might be not applicable, but you want to make sure that that's all in good status for you. And you have that ready for your accountant. And then on the equipment side, just to go through if you've purchased any new equipment, if you purchase, lease, or finance, you need to identify that, create a list, verify the in-place service dates, gather the documents, and then it's always a good idea to create like an asset pack or a file folder for each so that you have all that ready for your accountant. So for paperwork deadlines, the things to consider: January 15th is your estimated tax payments and also sales tax if that's applicable to you. January 15th is the quarterly estimated tax payment or sales tax that's due, plus your IRS tax. February 2nd, your W-2s and 1099s are due. March 17th, the LLCs and S-Corps are due to the IRS. And then your April 15th is your personal tax return. So it's typically always been that. So if you're having to pay quarterly estimated taxes for income, that's every quarter: April 15th, June, September, and then January 15th, 2027. So the other things you need to file for your deadlines are the annual report, which is typically due May 1st. And then the beneficial ownership info, that's a new requirement. And there's some question on whether we have to file that or not. So get with your accountant and bookkeeper and find out if in fact you have to do that. So these are not, whenever we get to these things, filings, these are mandatory, particularly the W-2s and 1099s. Late delivery does create problems and penalties, particularly with the payroll part of that. So it's just always good to get on that early and not wait and be, struggling at the last minute on that. So here's your Q1 action plan, first quarter 2026. Print it, assign it, and finish it. There's 5 non-negotiables. Verify you have the I-9 and W-4 on file for your people, and then get them in your paperwork. Collect the W-9s before paying your contractors going forward. Make that your policy. Confirm your LLC is active or your S-Corp is active, and you have filed your annual report and or put that on the calendar. Send your inventory to your CPA so your cost of goods is correct. Complete that hard count. Also, in conjunction with that, put your shelves in the FIFO order, which is the first expired, first out, and then also get a plan in place so you don't run out of actual inventory in the middle of a procedure, for example. So you have the PARS level, which is basically where you want to make sure you have specific things that once a threshold that you have from inventory count that you order automatically. So start your new year with a plan, put these on the calendar, and take the pressure off. So just a little bit about who we are and where our manuals fit in with MedOps manuals. Carrie is our nurse practitioner and one of the co-founders. She's experienced firsthand how painful it can be without operational systems. Anna, that's me. I focus on the back end systems and compliance, which is operations and finance. Julie is manages our design, making the complex information clear and usable. We have our 3 manuals that could be beneficial for your business, which include the Employee Handbook, the Daily Operations Manual, and the Business Owner's Toolkit, which is a bundle that we offer for you to look at. And these also help with, in conjunction with, being compliant for all of that. So just, if you have any questions, give me a call, 863-605-1855, or you can email me. And if you want the Q1 action checklist, we have it available. Just email me and we will get it to you. Thank you.